Welcome back to Star Wars Fanatic, Star Wars fans. And before I get into this video, I just want to recognize, yes, I do know this is set to be Mandalorian Season 1 week here at Star Wars Fanatic, but I thought this was extra special and I should share it. This is a what-if story of Anakin Skywalker that was recommended to me by one of our users named Yayo Hernandez. I hope I pronounced that right. If not, please correct me. But asked me if I could write a story about what if Anakin Skywalker never met Qui Gon Jinn or Obi-Wan Kenobi in the way that he did and was figuring out the Force on his own as a child. So here's that story. I'm not going to throw the tiny little voice in there asking you to subscribe. If you feel like subscribing, please do it. All right, let's get to it. In a galaxy far, far away, where the Force binds everything in its delicate web of light and dark, there exists a tale of a different fate, a different path for the chosen one. What if Anakin Skywalker was never found by the Jedi Order? What if instead he learned to control his extraordinary gift with the Force on his own, unshackled by the restrictive teachings of the Jedi and unburdened by their code? And all the while, the sinister Emperor Palpatine watched from the shadows, waiting for his moment to strike. This is a story of what could have been, a galaxy changed forever by one boy's altered destiny. Abandoned on the harsh desert of Tatooine, young Anakin Skywalker grows up a slave. In this timeline, there is no chance encounter with Qui Gon Jinn, no daring rescue by the Jedi. Anakin remains a prisoner of circumstance, yet the Force pulses strongly within him. It speaks to him in whispers, guiding his actions, influencing his thoughts. Unaware of the Jedi or the Sith, he comes to rely solely on his instincts. Instincts sharpened by the Force itself. He learns to manipulate his environment, bending objects to his will, sensing danger before it strikes, and moving faster than the eye can see. As he grows older, his abilities become more apparent and more potent. By the time Anakin is a teenager, he has developed an uncanny ability to control the world around him. He wins every pod race he enters. He reflexes and foresight are honed to near perfection. The people of Mos Espa whisper tales of the Wizard of Tatooine, a boy who can make the impossible happen. But despite his fame, Anakin feels a deep emptiness inside, a darkness that begins to consume him. His first true test comes when he decides to free his mother, Shmi Skywalker, from slavery. Driven by a desire to protect her and guided by a fierce determination, he uses his powers to manipulate Watto's mind, coercing him into releasing her. For a moment, there's joy. A fleeting, tender happiness that Anakin had never felt before. But freedom comes at a cost. Days after her release, Shmi is captured by Tusken Raiders. Anakin, plagued by nightmarish visions of her suffering, rushes to her aid. But he's too late. He finds her broken and battered, dying in his arms. The loss shatters him, and his grief quickly turns to rage. Unleashed without restraint, he massacres the entire camp of raiders in a blind fury. Not just the men, but the women and children too. This act of vengeance marks a turning point in his life. Anakin becomes distant, detached. The boy who once dreamed of freedom and adventure now only seeks control. Control over his emotions, his surroundings, and his fate. The Force, which once guided him, now becomes a tool of his wrath, his means to an end. He begins to shut off his feelings, becoming cold, calculating, almost mechanical in his actions. The spark of innocence fades, replaced by a growing darkness. Word of Anakin's exploits soon reaches the ears of the darkly ambitious Chancellor Palpatine. Not through chants or spies, but through whispers of the Force itself. The galaxy is buzzing with stories of a prodigiously gifted young human winning pod races, performing feats no ordinary being could achieve. But what truly intrigues Palpatine is the intensity of the power he senses, a power that rivals even his own.
Could it be the one who was created to replace me?
Palpatine's mentor, Darth Plagueis, had once sought to manipulate the Force to create life, to craft a being so pure of power, a perfect vessel for the dark side. That experiment had seemingly failed, and Plagueis perished. But now Palpatine realizes the truth. Anakin Skywalker is that creation, the ultimate weapon, lost in the sands of Tatooine, forgotten by those who knew him only as a slave, until now. Seizing the opportunity, Palpatine travels to Tatooine. He doesn't come as a Sith Lord, but as a wise mentor, a comforting presence. He finds Anakin in the midst of his sorrow and anger, simmering in his pain, still mourning his mother's death and consumed by a newfound emptiness.
You are strong, young Skywalker. Stronger than you know. But your anger, it blinds you. I can help you. I can teach you to use that power to conquer your fears, your pain, to conquer death itself.
Anakin, desperate for guidance, for purpose, is drawn to Palpatine's words. He senses the truth in them. Here, finally, is someone who understands his pain, his desire for control, his thirst for power. And so he agrees to become Palpatine's apprentice, unknowingly stepping onto the path of the dark side. Under Palpatine's tutelage, Anakin's transformation accelerates. The boy who was once filled with hope and dreams of freeing the galaxy is now consumed by a single desire: to gain power, to prevent ever feeling helpless again. The Force, once his guide, now bends to his will. His abilities grow exponentially. He masters the dark arts, learns to channel his anger and hatred into devastating power. Unshackled by the limitations of Jedi teachings, Anakin becomes a prodigy of the dark side. His emotional detachment grows. The more he embraces the dark side, the more he suppresses what remains of his humanity. He becomes colder, more calculating, almost machine-like. Emotions are a distraction, a weakness, he decides. Then must be purged. He uses the Force to block them out, severing any ties to his former self. To the galaxy, he becomes a terrifying enigma, a force of nature, unstoppable and unforgiving. With Anakin as his secret weapon, Palpatine's plans for galactic domination accelerate. He no longer needs to rely on Darth Maul or Count Dooku, both of whom served as pawns in his grand scheme. Anakin's presence changes everything. The galaxy remains unaware of this emerging darkness, even as the foundations of the Republic begin to crumble from within. As Darth Vader, Anakin begins to strike from the shadows. He infiltrates the Jedi strongholds, slaughtering his targets with ruthless efficiency, without the encumbrance of his latter mechanical form. He is a silent terror, faster, stronger, more lethal than anything the galaxy has ever seen. The Jedi, unprepared for such an attack, are caught off guard. Even their most skilled warriors cannot stand against him. The purge begins years earlier than in the original timeline, and the Jedi Order is pushed to the brink of extinction before they even realize what is happening. But the concerns of Mace Windu and Yoda come too late. The Jedi's time has already passed, and the galaxy begins to slip into the cold, dark grasp of the Sith. Palpatine tells Anakin, "You've done well, apprentice. Together they shall bring a new order to the galaxy, one that will last for 1,000 years. But even as the Empire rises, a tension builds between master and apprentice. Anakin, now Darth Vader, has grown stronger, more confident. He begins to see through Palpatine's manipulations, to understand his true nature. The Emperor senses this change, but underestimates the depth of Anakin's transformation. He is no longer the lost, frightened boy of Tatooine. He has become a creature of pure power, cold and calculating, with ambitions of his own. Anakin's mind, now devoid of the emotional chains that once bound him, begins to entertain thoughts of his own rule. He has learned all he can from Palpatine, and with every mission, every conquest, his understanding of the dark side grows deeper. He begins to question why he must serve, why he should settle for being an instrument of someone else's will when he could be the master. The whispers of the Force, once a constant companion, now grow silent. Anakin feels betrayed, not by Palpatine, but by the Force itself. It was supposed to make him invincible, to help him prevent the pain of loss. Yet, it had only brought him deeper into darkness, and his mother still died. What good was this power if it couldn't give him the peace he so desperately craved? The thought consumes him, pushing him further into the void of his own making. Calmly, Palpatine approaches Anakin and tells him he's troubled. Your thoughts betray you. You're wondering, why serve me when you could rule yourself? Anakin, coldly, as Darth Vader, I've done all you asked and more. I have brought the galaxy to its knees. Why should I be content with this servitude? Palpatine replies, you still don't understand the full power of the dark side. There are secrets even you have yet to learn. Knowledge that only I possess. But Anakin's patience is wearing thin. His faith in Palpatine, in the dark side, begins to waver. He is no longer a mere apprentice. He is a Sith in his own right, powerful enough to challenge even his master. His cold, emotionless demeanor, once a shield, now becomes a weapon. He begins to plot. In secret, Anakin begins to gather his own followers, delusioned officers, rogue Sith acolytes, and those who crave the power he offers flock to his side. He promises them a new order, a galaxy ruled not by fear and deception, but by pure, unrelenting strength. He moves cautiously, ever wary of Palpatine's watchful eye, but the Emperor is not blind. He senses the shift in the Force, the stirrings of betrayal. He approaches Anakin. You must be careful, Lord Vader. The path you walk is treacherous, even for one as powerful as you. Anakin replies, and yet you taught me to seek power, to conquer all that stands in my way. Is that not what you desire? Palpatine returns, indeed. But remember, there can be only two, a master and an apprentice. When the apprentice becomes the master, there is no room for another. Anakin understands the warning. The time for subtlety is over. He knows Palpatine will move against him soon, and he cannot wait. He strikes first. In a climactic battle within the depths of the Imperial Palace, Anakin confronts his master. The duel is fierce and brutal. Lightning crackles, walls shatter, and the very air trembles with the power of their conflict. Palpatine, a master of the dark side, unleashes his full wrath, but Anakin, unencumbered by emotion or fear, fights with a precision and intensity that catches even the Emperor off guard. The throne room becomes a storm of energy and destruction. Palpatine's lightning strikes the walls, scorching the marble, but Anakin deflects it with ease. He channels the raw energy of the dark side, turning it back upon his master. The clash of their wills sends shockwaves through the Force, felt by all Force-sensitive beings across the galaxy. In a moment of sheer power and determination, Anakin seizes the upper hand with a swift and decisive strike. He plunges his lightsaber through Palpatine's chest. The Emperor gasps, his eyes wide with shock and betrayal. For the first time in his life, he knows fear. As his life fades, he realizes his mistake. He created a monster he could not control. He tells Anakin, you were always meant to replace me. Anakin responds, and now I have. And as Palpatine's body crumples to the floor, Anakin stands over him victorious. But there's no triumph in his eyes, no satisfaction, only emptiness. He has won, but what it cost. He is the most powerful being in the galaxy, but he feels nothing, no joy, no pride, only a void where his soul once resided. News of the Emperor's death spreads like wildfire. The galaxy trembles under the weight of a new reality. The Empire does not fall. It merely shifts. With Palpatine gone, Anakin takes the throne, declaring himself the new emperor. His rule is swift and unyielding, his decrees absolute. Planets that resist are crushed without mercy. There are no negotiations, no compromises, only submission or annihilation. Emperor Vader rules with an iron fist, his former emotions completely suppressed. The galaxy becomes a place of fear and order, but also of despair. Under his rule, there is no rebellion, no hope of freedom. The rebellion never has a chance to form. Any spark of resistance is snuffed out before it can ignite. The galaxy becomes a cold, dark place. Orderly, yes, but lifeless. In this alternate timeline, the galaxy is reshaped not by war, but by the swift, decisive actions of a single man. Anakin Skywalker, freed from the chains of emotion, becomes the ultimate Sith, the emperor of a galaxy in eternal darkness. His reign is unchallenged, his power unending, but with every passing year he becomes more of a machine, less of a man, a dark god in a galaxy devoid of light. And so, the prophecy of the Chosen One is fulfilled, not in bringing balance to the Force, but in plunging the galaxy into a darkness from which it may never return. Anakin Skywalker becomes a legend, not as a hero, but as the darkest figure in the history of the galaxy, a tale of what could have been and what never will be again. So I took this story a little darker than a lot of people would. I had to add in the chosen part because, the Chosen One, it's a huge prophecy of Anakin Skywalker bringing balance to the Force. But in this, that Chosen One prophecy was misread or never came true because the Jedi never knew of Anakin's existence. But let me know what you think of this in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, it's a little dark, but I enjoyed doing it. And I am kind of a storyteller as well. I do have another channel where I tell horror stories, so that's where the darkness in this story came from. But let me know what you think, and I can't wait to hear from you. And until then, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, signing off. Wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. And remember, may the Force be with you, always.